Welcome to the Badass is the New Black podcast. I am your host, Chrissy Chin. Here on the podcast, I help women develop and grow their personal brand on social media. As network marketers or coaches, you must stand out in this saturated world, and I'm here to help you discover the edge that you need to stand out and attract more clients. I help you sell more. I help you scale your business so that you can live the life you dream of, which is working less and enjoying more. Today, I get to chat with the one and only Meahgan Richards, wife, mama, and your personal cheerleader. She helps women build their brands with the ICE method. Yes, you heard me right. I said ICE, I-C-E. Identifying your brand voice, clarifying your brand message, and executing on your business ideas. She does this all by helping you own your story. Welcome, Meahgan. I'm so excited to have you here on the podcast.
Hey, boo.
I've been dropping hints for a while now that I'm going to bring you on the podcast, and it's finally happening.
I'm so excited. You're like one of my most favorite people, but you already know that.
Right back at you, babe. All right. So since I've been dropping hints and I've been telling people we're going to talk about storytelling, how to tell your story, how that plays into building your business, how that plays into, I think last episode I mentioned that it really plays into helping you find your niche. So we're going to talk about that, but let's first start with your story. Duh. Tell me more. Tell me your whole life story right here.
Oh my goodness. We don't have time for that.
3 minutes. No.
Okay. So the quick summary version is currently where I'm at. I'm a Virginia girl turned Floridian. About 3 years ago, my husband and my family moved here. So I've been married. Oh my gosh. Okay. Oops. He's going to get mad at me. I've been married going on 10 years. Okay. We're high school sweethearts. So we've been knowing each other a long time. And then we have 2 children, Ava, who is 6 years old, and my son, Abram, who's 3. So pretty busy. And we just moved to Florida about 3 years ago, and, fast forwarding to where we are now, it's amazing. And now what I do is lots of different things. I like to think of myself as I feel like I'm a full-time cheerleader, which is circles back around from those high school days of is this ever going to suit me being a cheerleader? Is it ever going to mean anything in my life? But I really do. I feel like a full-time encourager. And so now I basically do that very thing, is help other women own their stories, because I think it's super important in your business. So.
Okay. And did you go to business?
Cliff notes. Okay.
Right. Okay. And did you go to business school?
Oh no. I did
That's
not.
always my favorite.
I did not go to business school. I don't know that I would have done very good.
How dare you start a business without having a business degree?
Listen, you know my motto. There's room at the table, okay?
No, I'm totally joking. And Meahgan knows I'm joking. And I think the listeners know I'm joking, because I went to school to be a nurse. And this is the farthest thing from that, except for I'm still helping people. So
right, y'all. So clearly though, seriously, I did go to college, but this is part of my real deep story. And if you follow along for any amount of time, is that what qualifies me is really nothing in a sense, because I went to college and I actually failed out of college. So my story is really multifaceted. And how I got led to where I am now is just a huge, huge blessing. So yeah, definitely didn't go to business school.
That's all right. Here on the Badass is the New Black podcast, no one needs to have gone to business school.
Right? What if they failed out? Does that count?
Totally counts. Totally counts. College is not a requirement here. All the moms would be like, shh, children, cover your ear. Oops. I want their kids to go to college. But hey,
good story. Don't worry.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so tell me, I feel like that was such surface level story.
It was.
And so I need more details.
Yes. Okay. So let me circle back to why I failed out of college and how this is a part of what I do now is, so for a really long time, so this is really deep for me, guys. You're getting to know each other. You're getting to know the real Meahgan real fast here. For years and years, I struggled with really intense fear. So I had really bad anxiety, even bouts of depression. And I walked through just so much fear. To the point where I could hardly function. I was not one of those oh, I'm nervous. It was it encapsulated my entire life. So I was the girl who couldn't get out of the bed in the morning, super anxious, super depressed, had multiple panic attacks a day. And sadly, this was happening all in my college years. And so there was just a time frame where I came to say, like, I can no longer function. Like, I got to get me healthy. I've got to. So the reason for the fail out of school was actually because I was walking through such a hard, dark season of my life. And really for no other reason than I just was super anxious over lots of things. I had lots of insecurities, lots of imposter syndromes, lots of, I don't think I can do this or that. And so I just lived in a lot of fear. And so all that to say, that is where the failure from school comes. But through that journey and getting out of that, I have just overcome in so many ways. And now I'm no longer. And so what I do now is actually encourage other women to push past fear, to own their story. So even that hard part of my story where you might look at it, if you just heard that at surface level and be like, oh my gosh, this girl failed out of college. Like, who is she bringing on the podcast? But the reality is there's lots of painful, hard parts of our story that can also be used and are still so valid, like in the people we're going to reach. So yes, it is deeper than that. You're right.
Yeah, no. And I think that's the whole thing. Like, think back, okay, when you first heard Meahgan just talk about that very surface level story, it's like, oh, okay, like a little bit of who she is. And you're like, she sounds great. Like, she looks amazing. But then when you actually tell the deep, vulnerable parts of the story, and like, you didn't even get into it too much, but I know like that's being vulnerable, sharing those dark, the fear, the anxiety, and all of that. Yeah. And there's people out there right now that are like, oh my gosh, that's me, or that was me, and they're really connecting with you. So I think that's super important for the listeners to realize, is that you have to share the deep, vulnerable parts of your story to make a connection with someone.
You do. You 100% do. And I think, taking it from someone who is in that place, like, and society is so much different now than it's been with like mental health and like things that we walk through. People are a little bit more vulnerable, but still, you as a person, like, I know that I discounted myself out like so many times, like, oh, I've gone through this and this. No one's going to care what I have to say. Like, this kind of counts me out, or no one's going to think that my ideas are good because I failed out of school, even though the reason I failed out of school wasn't because I didn't apply myself, or wasn't because I wasn't smart or anything, but because my story looked like it did. Then you kind of adopt this thing of like, I was fearful of my story. So for a long time, I actually ran from it. I was like, no one's going to like think that's cool. Like, everyone's going to think that's like, don't talk to that girl. And the reality is there will be some people, but those aren't your people, and that's the other beautiful part of owning your story. And I know you've been talking about, I've been listening to your podcast, and you've been talking about your niche and stuff. And like, when you own your story, like, you will find your people. And that was like the biggest, most eye-opening part for me, was like, okay, I can get vulnerable and share these little parts of me. And what started happening was people started saying, hey, me too. Oh, you can still do that even though you had that, And so it's been super helpful actually for me in my own personal journey to own my story.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me more about like the people that you're attracting now through sharing your story, or kind of how you've used your story to evolve to where you are.
Right. And, I think when you're going through the process of owning your story, because here's what I think, like, I'm really huge on owning your story first. So in any type of business or whatever you're doing, I don't know if you know who Donald Miller is, but he's really big in building your story and about the framework of that. And he talks about how, like, even in movies, it's like a narrative, right? Everybody wants to be pulled into the character and the story and all this. And this is like similar to our own lives. And so when I started owning my own story and kind of just started leaking out what I was comfortable with, leaking out those little parts, like, hey, I'm building a business, or I'm in this business place, but I struggle with this, or but I'm still a mom who works, or I'm whatever, I'm divorced, or whatever your story is. When I started doing that, I started finding that there were more people who looked like me, who had the same dreams and desires, but yet they were afraid. They were like, oh, I didn't know that people would listen to me. Like, I didn't know that this would work. So you start to attract people who look a little bit like you, which is also super encouraging to you, because not only are you owning your story and it's drawing people in, which is what you want to build your business, right? Yeah. But also you're owning your story, it's drawing people in, and it encourages you to more than just grow your business. You're like, oh, I might actually be able to make a difference in somebody's life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
I'm
it
really
validates. Yeah. And
right.
it validates that you're not alone. I
Right.
think that's
Yeah.
what a lot of people struggle with. And I think you kind of touched on that as like I
Yes.
felt like, all alone, who else, no, who's going to relate to this? Who is
Right.
going to want to be friends with me?
Yeah.
But it's like the people that want to be friends with you are the people like you. And guess what? You're not alone.
Right.
And you wouldn't find those people unless you did share those parts of your story.
That is so true. That is so true. It is
Absolutely. And
so
I give you so much credit to really helping me even now tell more of my story and where I'm at. And it's helping me even
that's
niche
awesome.
down and pull out people and a subset of people
Yeah.
that I didn't even realize maybe I wanted to really help.
Yeah. That's
So
amazing.
that's been from like talking with you behind the scenes and
Yay.
together and you just being like, look, Chrissy, this is part of your story. Like it might just be a portion of your life
Yeah.
or like a section where you always use the same term. What is it? Like I don't know what you say. This is where you're walking in your path right now.
Yeah. So it might not be like your assignment is one thing, and the avenue that you're walking in. So like what your call is like this, but like you might be in a certain assignment right now. So like your assignment might be this people or this product or this service. Like your calling kind of stays the same though. The message. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like this is just a little piece of the direction that you're going.
Yes.
And look, own that piece where you are right now and use that. And that doesn't mean you can't evolve later and attract a different person later or attract, the person that is evolving with you.
Yeah.
Right? It's just all about sharing those pieces of where you're at.
Yeah.
So I love that. Even owning where you're at right now and knowing that there's room to grow. And there's room to share that story of growth.
Yeah.
For sure.
You mentioned that last time, I think in one of your last episodes, and you talked about that very thing is like, you will identify with those people and they'll identify with you. Those will be your people, but then you'll also attract the outlying people. Like you'll also attract those other people along the way. And I think that's what's important to remember. Cause I know for me, I was like, if I share this though, like then it's only going to be those kind of people. And then I'm going to be labeled. Like I'm going to be labeled as the girl with fear and anxiety and panic attacks. And I don't want to be labeled. I'm trying to get away from that,
Right.
And the reality of that is you don't have to, I say this quite often, like you don't have to air all your dirty laundry to get your story out. You don't have to drag people through the mud who maybe hurt you in part of your story to get it out there to where people get it. You just have to go from the place that you've walked through. And you can do that without being like, crazy. And what I noticed was that I was attracting those people, but it wasn't like as a label. It was like, hey, oh, you've done this, you've overcome that. Like, whoa, I can too kind of thing. So it's actually more of a catalyst going forward versus like bringing me into like a label of like, I'm the girl with fear and anxiety and I'm never going to not be that girl, Yeah. But the reality is that's part of my story. And what I found is that most people resonate in your weakness. They don't resonate in your strength. They want to go where you're going, but they resonate and connect with you in your weakness. Mm-hmm. And as much as we hate to talk about that, because nobody wants to appear weak, like none of us do. It's like not even culturally acceptable, like, but there's something beautiful to weakness. And when we are able to have those moments of weakness, people resonate and then we can show them how we've overcome it and we're stronger or we're in the journey or whatever. So it's really actually, without being super sentimental, I feel like it's a really beautiful process to walk through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My mindset coach is always like, vulnerability is your superpower.
Yes.
He's like, that, Chrissy, listen, vulnerability is your superpower. And I know you don't want to get there, but you have to. Okay. You have to get there.
Nobody does.
For me, like, I don't want to seem weak. I don't want to seem clueless. I don't want to seem like I don't know what I'm doing. Like I want to be confident and like look like I have my, what together. Although I do love showing like I have the bloopers on my Instagram.
You are you.
Like I do love showing that side and I'm embracing that more and more for sure. Because that is what, like when I share that, people will send laughing comments or, comment about it. Or if I'm like fumbling on a Facebook Live and I'm like, squirrel, what am I talking about? I don't know. And then, or like tech difficulties. And I'm like, well, this is what's happening. And people will say, oh my gosh, I love how real you are. And you're just kind of rolling with the punches. And like, they're like, your imperfection is making me believe in myself that I can do it too. So like, that's like, there's just something powerful.
There is. There is. And like you get to the point where you're like, you feel like you can take the mask off a little bit and actually be yourself. And you get to the place of confidence. I think that's such a good word that you mentioned. Like you get confident in being you. And when you can fully be you, here's the thing. I think you can sell anything. Like, I just think you can sell anything because only you can tell it like you. Like, you and I, or me and the next girl, or me and the girl next door, like we could all sell the same exact thing in a sense, but it's going to look different. We might even have the same ideal client, but when you tell it through your story and I tell it through my story and my lens, like we attract more like-minded. And the room, like they say, there's room at the table. Like it's so big. The world is humongous. Like there's so many people that need to hear what you have to say and what I have to say and what the next girl needs to say. And so it is.
No,
super
absolutely.
true.
There's so many people. There's so much money. Like there's enough to
It's
go
enough.
around. And I love this. And I don't remember when I mentioned it on the podcast, but you don't have to be the best. You just have to be different.
Yes.
And your story is what makes you different, right?
Yes.
Because no one else has walked the same path that you have, even though it might be similar. And that's why people relate, because it might be similar, but it's not the same.
Right. Yeah.
Let's take a tiny little break from this badass podcast to talk about Kajabi, or as my husband calls it, Punjabi. Babe, it starts with a K. Kajabi. This is the platform that literally makes all the magic happen. It's plug and play, no coding necessary. And guess what, you guys? The best thing about it is that you get your very own mobile app with it. I looked into building an app and it was going to be over $100,000. You get your own right there. The platform is so affordable too. So instead of paying for individual platforms like your CRM system, which is going to host your email, your landing pages, which is going to capture your email, your website, which is going to be where all the magic happens, a community space, it's literally all in one. So it doesn't matter if you want to host courses, educational classes, have libraries in there for your team. This is absolutely the way to go. And I have a month free for you to check it out. So hop over to my website, thechrissychin.com/Kajabi, Kajabi, and you can check out a month for free. I cannot wait to see what you create. Please do me a favor. Send me a DM, send me an email once you've created something so I can see it and check it out. Can't wait for you to get started and scale your business like a badass boss. All right, let's get back to the podcast. Tell me a little bit about, because we talk a lot about Instagram and how to grow on Instagram and all of that. So, Instagram, you only get so much. It's not like, you don't want it to be a ginormous blog post, or like Instagram is your short form, right? There's a long form, podcast, blog, YouTube video, short form, Instagram, Twitter, whatever. So what are your tips for letting your story shine in those little pieces as you post on social media?
Yeah. I think there's lots of ways where I'm never trying to beat the algorithm of Instagram or anything like that, but I think that there are lots of ways to share your story. And I think maybe you and I do something similar in like pillars and creating those content bucket kind of ideas of, that's what I try to do. So I try to think of like some very specific key bucket points that are potent to my story, right? So I have these 4 categories, or, we all have 4 centralized that usually human connection is, and that's connection. We've talked about this before. That's connection, inspiration, sales or promotion. And then what's the last one? Connection, inspire, sales, connection. And educate. Yes, educate. So we have these like 4 things that like people love. Like that's what they're there for, right? And so if you can start posting your story in those little tidbits, like those 4 sections, you can do it. And because this is why I do like Instagram, because Instagram is like little snacks, like sometimes longer isn't better. Like you can put like just little pieces of your story, little by little, in those categories. So by having those type of categories like connection, inspiration, educate, and then sales or promotion or whatever you are, if you're in business, like it allows you to kind of categorize your story so that it doesn't feel like a big like spaghetti mess. Like, especially if you're a girl, you can go from like one thing to the next, and your story's like, I love cats and I love dogs and I love my family and I love, my story. But if you have these like specific categories, it kind of helps you implement your story a little better without going too crazy, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes what I try to do is like take that thought and that idea that I want to put out there and then
Yeah.
think of an example in my life where it reflected that.
Yeah.
So it was
Good.
like a lesson that I learned. Like, what's the little piece in my story that helped me learn that lesson?
Yeah.
Or, you know, maybe it's not personally, but I learned this lesson. It like helped me sculpt one of my truths, you know, something that I believe. And I was like, it's because I witnessed this happen. Or, you know,
Yes.
whatever. So just giving little examples of how, you know, real life is helping you grow and uncover and discover and all of that,
Yeah.
I think is a great way to kind of be able to slip little pieces of your story in there.
Yeah. That's really good.
Cool. Well, I love that. What other tips do you have for sharing your story on social media?
You know, my biggest thing, and I say this motto all the time, and I will say it probably from the mountaintop forever, is that there's room at the table, so pull up a chair. For a long time, for me, because fear was such an issue in my past, I just had trouble starting. I always had all the ideas. I was like, this is going to be the best. Like, this is going to be the best invention. Like, this is going to be the thing that makes me like millions of dollars and changes the world at the same time because that's what I want. But when you just start owning your story, and by that, all you have to do is just start sharing. Start sharing the parts of it that you know will connect with people. It's not as like mystical and magical as like we like to like think that it is. It's literally one step. You really only need to be, so I tell people all the time, you only need to be one step ahead. You don't have to like know all the answers all the way. You just have to be one step ahead. And so if you take that next step, essentially what you do is you encourage the girl next to you to take the next step too. And then you kind of see this like build or whatever. So just sharing your story literally just looks like starting. It's not some like froofy thing. It's just start with one word, one sentence, start with one post on Instagram, start with your bio, like start with something, you know, to just get you moving in the direction.
Yeah,
Because there is plenty of room. There's so much room.
there is.
Yeah.
And remember, your story is not just like, I'm a mom and I've got these
Right.
kids and I live in this place. Like, your story is so much more and so much deeper
It
than that.
is. And I used to be so like bound by that. And like sometimes I'll still find myself in the mom guilt place of like, but I'm supposed to be a stay-at-home mom right now. Like I can't do anything else. And the reality of that is that like that is all really awesome and I love it. It's like my number one thing, right? And I think that there are some women who are super like I know lots of friends who are like, no, I just am going to do momming until my kids are in school. I'm not going to do anything else. And they're amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I know for me, I want to do momming and I also want to encourage people with my story in this other place. And I think there's room for both, you know? And I think especially if you are a mom listening to this, like so easy to feel mom guilt and so easy to be like, everyone's going to judge me if I'm, you know, whatever. But the reality is those aren't your people. Like,
Right.
you know what? It's okay if they judge you. Everybody is called to do something. And if you are called to change the world with your story, like even if it's a stay-at-home mom, like you can still do that. It doesn't take away.
The reality is people are going to judge you for being a stay-at-home mom. People are going to judge you for being a working mom. People are going to judge you for doing both. Like, we're judgy people. So like you're going to get judged. So you might as well be doing the thing that you love and like and make your heart happy and serves the world because someone out there is going to judge you. And you know what? See you later.
Say judge away.
That's fine.
Because the ultimate goal is like, we want to make lots of money, right? Everybody wants to make lots of money. That's like, there's so many reasons why we want to make lots of money, right? But like at the end of the day, I want to change people's lives so they can make lots of money or so they can go do whatever they want. And if that's to stay home with their kids and they can stay home with their kids, you know, or if they want to go work, they can go work, you know, like I just want so badly. I just want that whole stigma to go away because there is room for whatever you want. It's like feeding versus non-breastfeeding. Like I just said that on here. Sorry. But like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, do you, boo? Like, just do you. Own your story. Stay in your lane. Stop like looking to the left and to the right. Keep the blinders on and just do you.
Yeah.
Do you.
Yeah.
You'll find your people.
No, absolutely. And that reminds me of, we went to an event together, Sabrina Phillips event.
Yes.
And she, kept saying like, are you going to let someone else's story dictate your story?
Yeah.
I was like, are you going to let them do that? And, everyone out there was like, no, I'm not going to let them do it. It's like, all right, then, like you said, put the blinders on, stay in your lane, do your story. Don't let other people's story impact your story.
Yes.
Or like affect your story. Right.
So
I guess is the better.
Yeah. And it's hard. It's really hard today. It's really hard because we want the next thing, and there's nothing wrong with that, and having, dreams and visions and all that for your life. But you're just you're way happier, and you have such, like, when I really started owning my story and stopped trying to like fit into the mold that I felt like everybody wanted me to look like I never felt like I really fit in. But when I started just owning it, like owning my deep thinking, owning my, way I talk about stuff, like I felt so much more comfortable in my skin, and it actually lit a fire in me to keep going. Like it actually lit a fire to say, you know what, if these people don't get it or they think I'm weird, like I'm going to have to let this people pleaser part of me go. And I'm just going to have to not try intentionally to offend anybody. Right. But the reality that I've learned is that you will always offend somebody. It does not matter. And sometimes offending people, if it's going to turn them to something better for their own life, isn't always a bad thing. Like it's okay. It's okay that you feel uncomfortable about what I'm saying. Like it's probably a good thing, Mm-hmm. We like to be comfortable. And I think business and owning your story isn't comfortable, but it brings like real change, and it brings money, and it brings, success, because you've become you,
Yeah, so. Absolutely. I'm definitely, like with the Chrissy Chin brand, I'm a very raw version of myself. Like I'm
this. Yeah.
I'm like, I don't think we've cursed yet on this podcast, so we might not have to mark it explicit, but like that's me. And in another brand that I have, Grow Workspace, like I get hate mail if I swear. So it's like,
that's hard. Yeah.
Right. So it's like, it is what it is. And that's fine. And I love those people. And like a lot of those people follow me over here, but like, this is my opportunity to like share my full story, to be my full self. And if I don't bring 100% of the people over from that brand to this brand, that's okay.
Yeah.
Right. That's okay. Like I will attract new people that are okay doing a whole earmuffs thing. We'll keep
we'll label it as explicit. It's okay.
Right. So
no, I think it's awesome. And you are really good at that. You have such a good story of like, that is what you have done. Like you have built this one, and now it's cool because now you get to do that for other people who are maybe in the same place, or like, hey, I have this one thing where it's like these people and I love these people, but like I also really want to do this, and I know that's going to look a little bit different parts of my personality. And so you've been able to do that. And so I think that's super valuable, because there's probably a lot of people that feel that way that could really use that, like you to tell them like, hey, you can do it. Like you can be yourself still and have both,
Yeah. No, there is, because they message me.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't have messaged me unless I shared a little piece of that, or invited them into a more intimate space in my DMs, like, and had a conversation with them and got them to say like, I'm really scared to like announce this because I'm afraid of what my team will think if I'm exploring something in addition, or, or even changing my brand a little bit. Like I used to not curse, but it was really hard for me. And now I want to curse. Like, how do I transition into that? And it's like, you just and I'm helping them just like, you just have to do it.
Yeah.
And realize that like not 100% of your people will follow you. But if you really want to like live in joy all the time and be doing exactly what you want to be doing and how you want to be doing it, because you get one life to live.
Yeah.
Then you have to do some of the things that feel hard. Like you said, get uncomfortable and you'll create the life that you want, right? That's ultimately what we want to do.
Yeah. That's so good. So good. Yeah. I love it.
Cool. Well, this has been awesome.
I know. I knew it was going to be, because I love you. Thank you for having me. I just love talking to you.
Thank you so much for coming on. Tell everyone how they can find you, where they should follow you to get more tips, and so you can be their cheerleader, because you guys, Meahgan is like the ultimate cheerleader. When
So
she's
proud.
right, she's got the pom-poms over there. She's cheering you on. And it's just like when you go to her Instagram, it's just like that feel good feeling of like empowerment, like, yeah,
good.
like I can totally do this. So I love it. So you need to go be following Meahgan so that she can be your cheerleader too. So tell us how to find you.
Okay, so you can find me on Instagram. I'm simply just Meahgan Richards, and it is spelled really weird. So I'm just going to spell it really quick.
Perfect.
It's Meahgan, and it's Richards is just normal. So I don't know what my mom was thinking. I always say, Mom, seriously, that is like the hardest way to spell Meahgan. But anyway, it sets me apart, right? I'm owning it.
Yes, I was thinking that this Meahgan is like the most unique Meahgan.
You're never going to forget that about me now. Yeah, so Meahgan Richards on Instagram, same thing on Facebook. And then I do have a website. So, it's meahganrichards.com. Just keep it all consistent.
Yes, perfect.
You can find me
Perfect branding. Good job. Good job. Cheers.
I've been listening.
Well, at least you get to, okay, that's one thing your mama gave you is a very unique name that nobody else had it on Instagram.
Oh, yeah, because you had a little bit of trouble with that.
Because mine, go ahead, go Google Chrissy Chen. Go Google. It's not me. It's definitely not me. No, I mean, more of what like you would expect Chrissy Chen to look like. Like I'm white. That's fine. I'm not Asian. I know it's a shocker.
That's what makes you so unique, friend.
Yes, exactly. That's one of the special things about me is my name, right? Chrissy Chen. You're like, wait, where is she? What? There's just white girls here.
I love it so much.
Yeah, so I had to add, the
which is even more.
My husband in his phone, my name in his phone is the one and only.
Oh,
because he knows that I'm like Chrissy Chen stole everything. Gmail, Instagram, all the things.
Oh man, that is true. Jeez,
everything. Any username,
buy that Google domain.
Right. Yes, she's got the domain, all the things. So if you can snag your name on all the things, I'm like getting things for my kids' names. I'm like starting new Gmail.
Yes, for real. You need to get your name. That's another conversation. Get your name, guys. Okay, brand you. Okay, just
right. So go buy your website for your children if you have high aspirations. Aspirations. That's right.
Yeah.
Of them being an entrepreneur.
I already set up all your accounts, guys.
Right. I have your Instagram, I have your Facebook, I have your Twitter, I have your Snapchat. You can't use them until you're 24, but I've got it for you when you're ready. Right?
Yes. That's awesome.
Amazing.
Hilarious.
Oh, well, awesome. We'll have links to everything in the show notes and all the things. Podcast, YouTube, all the things. So we'll make sure you're in there and people can find you. Thank you so much, Meahgan, for being here. It was
Thank you for having me.
All right. We'll see you guys later. Until next week, think about the parts of your story or the parts about you that you really want to shine through your brand. Doing this will absolutely help you attract the people you vibe with that you can serve.